everyone. I'm Claudia.
And I'm Luciana.
And this is Where We Land, a podcast about immigrating and multicultural identity.
Before we begin, don't forget to send us your questions, opinions, or stories about moving to the U.S. by writing to us at whereweland@gmail.com.
Today, we spoke with Miguel Angel Hito. He's from Peru, but he's lived in Japan. He's lived in the States for a long time now. He speaks 4 languages. He's so incredibly accomplished, but...
And so fun.
Up until...
So fun.
So fun. So accomplished, but up until he was 26, he was like, I have yet to go to college. I have all these dreams that I haven't accomplished. What am I going to do? And spoiler alert, he makes them come true. Let's get into it.
My name is Miguel Angel Hito Vargas. I was born and raised in Peru. I left Peru when I was 16, so I've been living more than half of my life out of Peru. I still love being Peruvian, but I spent 9 years in Japan, and it's been 15 years in the US, 9 in Miami, and the last 6 here in San Francisco. I work with advertising, which I love. I love talking to people, obviously. And I love getting paid. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, get it.
Your journey starts in Trujillo, Peru. Born and raised there. What does that look like? Because obviously we knew each other at school for a bit, but tell us like early life.
So Trujillo, Peru, beloved city, small city, the weather. My mom's a single mom. My parents were not together since I was like 3 years old. So also I have 3 siblings that are way, way older than me. I was actually, raised as an only child, which has its pros and cons, as we know. I was like a little mama's boy, even when I was going to kindergarten. I ended up starting primary school really, really early. And that's how my journey at Fleming started. So my older siblings migrated to Japan when I was 5 years old. And somehow my older sibling in Japan heard about the Sir Alexander Fleming that was about to open in Trujillo, Peru, this British school. Oh my gosh, Mom, we need to put him there. We need to get him the best. They would always try the best for me, which I am going to be, thankful for my entire life. And that's how I joined, Fleming. And I was just like, exposed to, like all the different things that we had the privilege to have at the Fleming, high school, primary school and whatnot. Great education, great friends. So that was amazing. And then I was a kid with a ton of dreams. I wanted to be an actor. My dream was to come to the US, to go to drama school in Pittsburgh. And that was my whole plan. I was like, I'm going to do it. But it was really difficult for you to find, for you to get the student visa in Peru, because it's a developing country. So the requirements are much more stricter because you need to show that you're not going to, depending on the government here and whatnot. And my siblings living in Japan, they tell me that, hey, you need to come to Japan. It's going to be easier for you to get your student visa. And then you go to the US and you fulfill your career and your dreams. And I was like, okay, let's do it. I finished high school, though, in December of 2000. So I moved to Japan in March 2001. And I'm starting to do the high school requirements because I needed to do the last year of high school again in the US so I can get my English to that level ready for college. And time goes by. I am in the process of getting the student visa, and September 11 happens in 2001, and I get stuck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I get stuck because all those student visa processes, they basically were frozen, right?
Yeah, after 9/11, there was a harsher crackdown. Yeah.
Okay.
So, like, at this point, I'm 17 years old, stuck in Japan. My dreams were like somewhere, but not in the right path. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And I, for a minute, I was just like a little bit like, I didn't know what to do because I was in Japan, a foreign country, even though I loved Japan, the idea of Japan growing up. When I moved to Japan, it was so different because, growing up learning English and speaking a little bit because English was not my forte and still is not. I always say I speak 4 different languages. English is the 4th one. But thinking about, like moving to Japan, I was like, it's a first world country. Everyone is going to speak English. My brother, though, lived in a really small town in the middle of the mountains in Nagano, where like the Olympics were in 1996, the Winter Olympics.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And no one spoke English. Like no one spoke English. And I didn't speak any Japanese. So my way to cope with this was to actually learn the next language that I was exposed to, which was Portuguese, because there's a huge Brazilian community in Japan, or there was a really huge Brazilian community. Long story short,
that's random.
That's incredibly I love that you were like, I'm in Japan. I refuse to learn Japanese. It's too hard. Portuguese. That's where I'm going to make some friends.
And not English, which I already. But nobody spoke it.
No,
that's very bold. Also, I guess you were only thinking of Japan as very temporary, to just move to Japan without knowing the language. Like that is not something that you can just really like kind of decipher at all.
No,
Absolutely
but I get
not.
it. Like you were going, like you said, you were going temporarily. It was you were staying with your brother, and you were going to just get all your paperwork in order to go to the U.S. Like it was going to be transitory.
It was a pit stop.
What happened, like when you had to make that decision of like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Like, what made you decide to stay in Japan, and what did you do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good question. So after 9/11, I was like, okay, let's readjust. What am I doing? In the meantime, I was doing like a little part-time at my brother's. My brother used to have a club that would open in the weekends only for Brasilia, for the Brazilian community, which is how I started building community with my Brazilian friends.
There's the Portuguese,
Yeah, that's how I learned Portuguese. I became fluent in Portuguese in 3 months. Mm-hmm. So then I'm like, no, I'm going to go to the US. So I go to the US because I got my tourist visa. So I went to Miami. My sister was already living in Miami. But then, like after 3 months, they're like, so what am I going to do here? Like in Japan, I had my long-term resident visa, which allowed me to do anything as a normal, regular, Japanese resident or a person with a
you could work, you could
do everything. While in the US, like I needed to start from zero, which I ended up doing years later. But it was just like a matter of like waiting on like, as a 17-year-old, what is going to be better for you at this time in your life. So I decided to go back to Japan and I started working. And I started working in factories. So I will work until 7, 8, midnight, and even 2 in the morning, from 8 a.m. in the morning. Wow. I was 17, 18, and I was making so much money for like my age. It was an amazing experience. And then I was ready to actually either go to the US or go to to London. But I met my first boyfriend, and everything changed, because then I put my dreams again on hold, because I was madly in love of this guy that it was meant to be. It was great. I met him, we fell in love, and it was awesome. But then 3-4 years later, I start realizing that I am not doing anything for my life. And in the meantime, the people that finish high school with me are not only done with their bachelors, but they're already on their masters. And I am 24 years old and I haven't done anything. So it was very frustrating. It was very, and after 5 years, we decided to finish, or to end, our relationship. And I ended up actually grabbing the 3 credit cards that I had in Japan and putting it all on my bet. And my bet was, I'm going to get my student visa, which I got, came to the US, paid for 6 months of English school in Miami, and moved to Miami.
Okay, before we get to Miami, I have a question about Japan, which is, so yeah, you describe it as very difficult in the beginning, but then you spent a lot of years in Japan, like 9 years? It's a long time. Like, did it ever get to feel more like home? Like you described, like falling in love there. Was there a period where it really did feel like home, or not so much?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It felt like home towards the end. I would say like the last 4 years in Japan, it felt like home, because I moved into a different region. I ended up spending the last 3 years in Osaka, which is a microculture within Japan that is much more welcoming. I would say they are not as, like as cold as Japanese culture seems to, or like you have the idea that it is. It did felt like home for sure. And
yes.
That's
lovely.
Yeah.
That's lovely. And so finally then you're feeling frustrated. You're like, all my peers, I feel like they're ahead of me. I need to finally do what I came here to do 9 years ago. Let's do it now. And you end up in Miami, got your student visa, you're studying English, but then you go there to study English. You said you paid for the 6 months or whatever, but eventually you do make it into college.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
Yeah. So I started studying English. Great, incredible people I met in that English course, because I met people from Venezuela, people from Colombia, people from Chile. And then within the 6 months, I met my husband. And we went on our first date.
Moving to foreign lands and falling in love.
Yes. In the least common way back in the day, I would say, the most common now, which is I met him online, but I met him on Match.com. It wasn't even an app.
I remember this.
It was the number one.
You had to open a laptop. That's old school.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was a very popular site back in the day. It was the Hinge Bumble of its time,
Yeah.
100%. But it was also super expensive for a kid that is moving to Japan with 3 credit cards and is in debt. And I just decided to pay the first 6 months, which was like $100 for the membership.
Love. You were looking for love. Right.
I was definitely looking for love, but I was also looking to, to meet new people. When I arrived to Miami, I soon realized that I didn't need the app, or sorry, not the app, but the website to meet new people, because I had such a strong community and it was so much fun and whatnot. I met this couple that was having dinner at the Italian restaurant that I was working. They were Japanese and they were speaking Japanese. And look at me, I don't look Japanese at all, right? But I approached them and I was like, "Hi, konnichiwa," and I started to speak, and they were like, "Oh my God, you speak Japanese?" And I was like, "Yes, I speak Japanese. I live in Japan." I was like, "Oh my God, here you have. This is my card. Come to my restaurant. I have a really nice restaurant with really good food." I went there. They hired me as the server. I became the supervisor within a few months, and then that's when I met Matt. Met him, ignored him for the first 2 weeks because I was like, this is moving too fast. And then one day I decided to text him. We texted for a couple of weeks, and then he invited me out. And then we met and we went out for dinner, and all we did in our first dinner together was to speak about our ex-boyfriends, because we were both coming out of long-term relationships. He was on a 3-year relationship and I was ending a 5-year relationship. And I don't know why, but we really connected. We connected in so many different ways. But I was also really straightforward to him. And I was like, "Look, you are 25 years old. Actually 24, I think. I don't know. He was 25. You're 25 years old. You already have a career. You already have a professional job. You're a corporate job. I am a kid that is coming from Japan. I have a ton of dreams. I think the only thing that I have in my favor is that I really want to work towards it. I speak 4 different languages, and I hope that helps me throughout my journey, but I don't have anything else." And
I love that you're like, you know what? I learned my lesson in Japan. I fell in love. I ignored my dreams, had a wonderful relationship, but ignored my dreams. And you know what, sir? I'm in love with you, but no, we need to follow my dreams now. So you're second place.
Yes, in the beginning. And then he goes and says like, "Okay, so what do you want to do?" I was like, "I want to go to college. Like, I've been waiting 10 years since I finished high school, because I'm 26 now. And I really want to go to college." And he was like, "Well, I'm a student advisor, so let me just tell you what to do." And I said like, "Well, actually, I have been checking this university. It's a private school that I really want to go to. Is here in the in South Florida." And he looks at me and laughs. And this is what I love about Matt. He keeps me very humble. And he looks at me and says like, "Ay, Miguel, por favor. You're poor. You're not going to go to a private school right now. You're going to go to a community college. You're an international student. You're going to have to pay out-of-state tuition." So
Yeah.
But it was, like he was an angel because he was able to, like kind of like put together a whole path that I was completely foreign to, right? Like I didn't know what to do and how to go to school. And he was like, no, you're gonna go to community college. You're gonna try hard. And then you're gonna try to, like to get your transfer in 2 years. And that's exactly what I did. I would never forget my first day walking into that parking lot at Broward College. When I closed the door and I look at those blue letters, I was like, I finally made it. Like after 11 years, and I just put everything I could because it was now or never.
When do you marry Matt? Is this after college? Is this when you guys get married, or is it before college? Because I know you guys have been married a while, right?
Yeah. So I met him in 2011. It's going to be 15 years, January 22nd. And that's the only anniversary that we celebrate because that's the day that our lives change.
Right.
Forever.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
And then he moves into my apartment to live with my mom, which is also really weird. And he's such a hero because we ended up living together for 8 years with my mom.
Wow. I did know you guys lived together with your mom because you and your mom are very, very close.
When I was going to college and also working more than 50 hours a week at the restaurant, I didn't spend much time with my mom or with Matt during like the 4 years of college. So actually, because Matt was living in the same apartment as my mom, they actually became really close and became friends. So to the point that they have had this discussion that, God forbid this never happens. But he says like if we ever break up, I'm going to continue to be friends with your mom. Just so you know.
Me and her have talked about it and we've decided. Yeah.
Yes. That's exactly their plan. But yeah, no. So when do I marry Matt? I married Matt in 2013. And I married Matt in a really unconventional way, in my opinion, because I am a Latino and I wanted to propose, or I wanted him to propose, and I wanted to get not my rock, but like something, right? And I remember it's June 20 something. I think it's June 26, 2013. And he takes the day off from the university. And he's like writing in his old Apple computer, and he's just like listening to something. Like, what are you doing here? Because I came back from the restaurant and I was waking up and I see him there in the living room. And he was like, shh, the Supreme Court. I'm like, what? So then he says, yay, man. He's like, yay. And then he closes his laptop and he says, Miguel, we're going to New York tomorrow. I'm like, what do you mean we're going to New York tomorrow? He's like, yes, we're getting married. And I said, like, but I'm not in my knees. You're not in your knees. Like, who's proposing to who? Absolutely
right.
not.
You're telling me you should be asking me. Yeah.
Yes. And then he comes, and again, my husband, keeping things very humble and, very straightforward. He's like, bitch, I'm marrying you for papers. And I was like, wait a second. I don't need papers. I'm on a student visa, and I have another 2.5 years that I can be a student here. And he said one of the most sweet things that I have ever heard, which is, in order for me to plan the rest of my life with you, which is exactly what I want to do, I want to make sure that you're never going to be forced to leave this country. And I was like, oh, okay, whatever, let's go. Because it was like I understood, right? Like I understood, as Latinos, we're so warm, we're like so emotional because I love you. And he's practical. He's like, no, we're going to get married because I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And that's the way that we're going to get it done. So we get it done.
But in Matt language, that's just the most romantic thing ever. Like, yes.
When I think about it, I still get goosebumps because I feel like that's the way that he's expressing himself and his like kind regards about me. So it was awesome.
So you guys get married. You guys, obviously continue to have your life in Miami. And how long have you been in San Francisco now? Has it been 6 years?
6 years.
Pre-pandemic. Yeah.
Pre-pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
We moved here. We moved here because of a job opportunity with Expedia. I started Expedia within the operations team, which was incredible and it was a great experience. But Expedia invested so much in my development. I had the ability to have, I was fortunate enough to have incredible leaders. And and it was great. But when I was like on my 4th year at Expedia, I wanted to get into advertising because advertising tied to the operations and to like the account management experience I already had, and like kind of like project management, little experience that I had in that current position that I was at that time, was like, this is the way that I am going to be able to develop my career and to catch up. I think this is very important, because I started college at 26. In the back of my mind, it was always a catching up. You know, like,
you felt behind.
Yes, I'm catching up. I need to catch up. So I finished my bachelor's degree. Yes.
Okay, good.
I'm so glad because, you know, obviously I hope that you do take time to recognize that you've achieved a lot. I think you have
I think you caught up a long time ago.
Yeah. And I remember when you changed to Google, it felt very much like a dream job. Yeah.
Yes, it did. What I would say is I felt like I was finally caught up with my journey, the trajectory that I wanted to have when I was 16 years old, right on at my last year at Expedia. Because I was just like, I was feeling so good about what I was doing, so good about advertising, so good about like, you know, having those conversations with my clients, like the brand that I was able to build with my team, across the entire nation. So it was really, really cool. And then when Google comes and knocks on my door, I'm like, no way, this is never going to happen, right? Plus, I would never leave Expedia. I don't think I'm ready to leave Expedia. And then within 2 weeks, Google sends me an offer letter, and I'm like, I cannot say no to this. So I'm like, like I love Expedia, but it's my time, and I did. But
it's what you deserve, yeah.
And how has San Francisco been? Like versus because obviously you had a community, you had your mother, you had a lot of things, you had a nice life in Miami. Yeah. So what has San Francisco been like now for you?
It feels like home, finally. Okay. And I'm saying finally because up until last year, when I would go back to Miami, I would still feel that sense of belonging to Miami. Like I would still feel like Miami is home. This year I went back to Miami in 2-3 different opportunities, I think. And it just didn't feel that way. And when I came back home and I was like, yes, I'm here. I'm here. And you know, like when we moved to San Francisco, our goal was to be here for a year and a half max. San Francisco is so expensive. It's ridiculous. I am not going to stay there. I am just paying my derecho de piso, which how would we translate this into English?
You're putting in the time. Yeah.
I'm putting in the time, and then I will go back to Miami and I will take over all the Latin American markets, which I had the opportunity to do so. They offered me the job, but I declined it because I already saw all the different opportunities that can happen in this city. This city is a very transient city. It can be a very lonely city in so many different ways because it's difficult to build a community because half of the people are here because of job opportunities and they're going to end up leaving 2 or 3 years later. I have 3 really close friends in San Francisco. 2 of them just moved within the past year and a half. So I only have 1 close friend right now, other than my husband. And you know, like me and my husband, we have like very different personalities. Matt, it was heaven for him. The pandemic was heaven for him. He was like, I need to talk to people. I need to see people. This is amazing. While me,
we all know Matt. Yeah.
I got gastritis within like a month and a half because I was so anxious that I was not talking to people and I was not seeing people.
Right.
But going back to the San Francisco piece, it feels like home. It is a place that has given me so many different opportunities. Adapting to Google was not easy in the beginning because, you know, like you put a ton of pressure and I'm a perfectionist. I also find out when I'm 37 years old that I have ADHD and I'm like, that's impossible. I'm sorry. What did I say? But then they start explaining to me.
How did you find out?
Well, because I was going crazy when I joined Google, because I was like, I always had the tendency to work late, right? Like, and again, the catching up mood. And I was like, no, I'm going to put everything into it and whatnot. And sometimes, because I had a ton of passion for advertising, I would end up staying, like, working until like 8 or 9 p.m. on something specific that I needed to deliver within the next week. I'm not a procrastinator, and I wanted to get it done. But when I moved to Google, I was exposed to all this new material and to all these new things. And I had the ability to build relationships and to sell stuff because I work with advertising, but I didn't know anything about the actual platform and how it worked. So I started realizing that it was overwhelming, that it was not only my anxiety, but it's like, there's something else. So thankfully, we had like incredible, working at Google is like a dream, not only because of the opportunity, but also the way that they take care of their employees. And one of the first things that they tell me is like, join Lyra, have a therapist. And I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? If my mom would listen to you, she would give you a chancletazo and she would like, who needs a therapist, right? Like, that's not the case. My mom always had believed in therapists. I had a therapist growing up, but like, that's our culture,
Right. Like, Peruvians, like, therapy is, it's a new thing.
Yeah, it's a new thing. So, but I joined and I started doing therapy and I started telling her my struggles. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And she's like, oh, let's test you for ADHD. And I was like, no. And I was like, no, I'm going to send you to a specialist. And I went to a specialist and I ended up finding that I have ADHD and everything else. And but on top of that, and on top of being a perfectionist, and on top of like now, obviously, like everything it's working really well. And like I have adapted into the culture. I am growing within my career. I finally got promoted earlier this year. I'm trying to get another promotion, at the moment. I hope it happens. If not, we're going to continue to work the same way. But you put a ton of pressure, and I am not the only person. You see that is the culture. The culture is like, I finally made it here and it's amazing. And I love what a great company I'm working for. Nonetheless, and at least that's the way I think, I am not going to disappoint anyone because I truly, truly respect the opportunity. So
right.
At some point you start finding ways for you to cope with it and like finding ways for you to have more work-life balance.
So do you get back to Peru often at all?
Or how do you keep it close to you?
Oh, through the food. So first off, through the food. I'm obsessed with Peruvian food. And I am really happy about the impact that has had to my husband's life, because we were having Peruvian food on Saturday. I wanted a ceviche because we went out for drinks with a friend, and I found a Peruvian restaurant in San Francisco. San Francisco is not as easy to find a really good Peruvian restaurant like Miami, because the Peruvian community is not as huge. But we found a restaurant on last Sunday, and we went there. And Matt looks at me, he's like, "What would my life be without Peruvian food?" Because he craves Peruvian food,
Matt.
And that's awesome. And that's the way that I carry my Peruanidad, right? Like I am so proud of being Peruvian. I always identify as being Peruvian. Now I am also an American citizen, but I always consider myself Peruvian first, even though I left Peru when I was 16, and now I am 41. But the way that I was able to develop this passion or like level of continuing with my culture was actually when I moved to Japan. Because when I moved to Japan, I remember it was back in 2001. So we didn't have WhatsApp. We didn't have specific smartphones. And I had to buy a card at the convenience store that cost $30, 3,000 yen, to speak with my mom on the phone for 27 minutes. And I remember just crying and telling my mom, I don't like it here. And I miss your food so much. And she's like, don't worry. I'm gonna teach you how to cook over the phone. And she taught me how to cook over the phone. And that's how I started to cook in Japan and like buy my Peruvian spices here and there. When I moved to Miami, obviously that was amazing. My mom even like, I even learned more from her. And then when I moved to Japan, when I moved to San Francisco, the first thing that me and Matt did was, where can I find my Peruvian spices? Because, ají amarillo, rocoto and whatnot. And we found a place and we're like, okay, yeah, we can move there. So that's why I carry.
I love that it was a joint mission. I love that Matt was like, because obviously you're doing the cooking, but Matt is eating. So he's like, no, we need to find these spices.
No, this is important. This is like a must. Yeah.
This is part of our life.
It is so true. We've talked about it on this show a lot. Like knowing where to get your stuff, like your Peruvian treat, your wherever, that is crucial for
the things that'll make you feel like home.
Home.
This can be my place. I'm curious. We always ask this question about your cultural identities. Now, you've kind of already answered a little bit, but I'm just wondering, because you have so many things, right? The Americanness, the Peruvianness, the Japanese-ness, and there can be so many others, like norteño, or maybe you feel trujillano even, or like, so what are those cultural identities that you identify with today?
That's a really, really, really good question. And I honestly always think about it. And the only answer that I always find is how much I have learned with every single culture that I have been exposed to. And I always say that I have been able to grab the perfect mix between the family values that you learn from the Peruvian culture, that caring about your mom, your neighbor, knowing that, you're going to protect them. So that's for me, Peru is my family values and the incredible food. Japan is how I was shaped as a professional, how I was able to mature, my work ethics. Mm-hmm. And then from the Brazilian culture, I got that joy for life. If you look at a Brazilian person in general, there's not a bad day for them. There's always, even in bad days, we're going to show our best faces. And I think that truly can change any day, any bad day. And from the American culture, as difficult as the times are right now, dreams come true. For the American culture, I feel like if you work hard, if you put in the time, things will happen. And I am a proven, I can proudly say that I am, I look back and I'm like, I look where I am right now, and like, I'm not like anything magnificent, but like, I am really proud of what I have achieved. And
it's where your dreams came true. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. It is. I mean, you've come a long way. And yes, like, how can you not believe that that's not possible when that's exactly what you did? Before we wrap up, Miguel, thank you so much, because we have taken up so much of your time. But we have this little last segment, and I feel like you'll have something for us. But it's called Speak My Language. And basically, where we just like want, if you could teach us, or if you could share with us a word, a phrase, something that you don't believe has like and it can be Portuguese, it can be Japanese, it can be Spanish, that you don't believe has a English translation, or that you simply prefer to say in your language of origin. Do you have anything for us? I feel like you'll have something for sure.
Yeah. Because again, like
I have a list.
I am fortunate enough, to again, like have learned through 3 other languages throughout my journey. It's actually this word is not a phrase, but this word, it's so special. And the word is saudade, which is a word in Portuguese.
Portuguese, okay.
And saudade, no one taught me what it meant. I had to actually do a research before our call today, but no one taught me what it actually meant. But you learn what it means just based on the context of the situation. But let me give you like a quick, like a quick definition of what saudade means. Saudade is a word in Portuguese denoting an emotional state of melancholic or profoundly nostalgic longing for a beloved yet absent someone or something. So in other words, it's kind of like the memory of something with a desire for it. Meaning, it's not that I miss it.
Right.
It's like, it's a saudade. It's like, I wish I was there, but I am not. Like, I wish I was there because I can feel that, you know, like that deep in your heart, like that moment. It's that sense of, it's melancholic, but you also like lo añoras. It's like it's really difficult
it's like a yearning.
to define. Yes, but it's just one word, and people
like
say
a nostalgic yearning of a moment, of a person, of a time,
of a thing, of a time that made you feel so good, and it's there.
Saudade, like it.
Saudade.
Thank you so much, Miguel. This was so fun. It was so good to catch up. Send my love to Mark. We'll call him Mark.
Oh, gosh.
It was so fun.
I will.
So, how did this conversation land for you?
Okay, so first of all, I loved Miguel's story. He was adorable.
He's so fun.
When he spoke about his relationship with Matt, about meeting him, the proposal / marriage, like,
I know.
Lovely. And on top of that, also just like such a hard worker, like really like went after his dreams, followed through, like worked hard to get to where he is and has achieved a lot. Just such a fun conversation, well-rounded conversation. We got to know a whole lot about him. Also, just such a well-traveled person.
Oh my gosh.
Incredibly multicultural.
Most. Literally, I like if he has a map with all of the, like with pins everywhere that he's been, I bet he's like covered most of the globe. Like, I'm not even joking. He and Matt would travel. Honestly, like I feel like every weekend for like 6 years, I would just see photos of them all over the globe. Like it was just, I had a lot of like FOMO, not gonna lie. Like,
you know, my favorite little, because he's told us so many cute little tidbits and stories and little anecdotes. And I think my favorite one is when he talked about how he was so homesick in Japan at the beginning and missing Peru and missing his mom, missing everything. And his mom taught him to cook over the phone.
I know. That's
Isn't that
so
the sweetest
sweet.
thing? That like, he's like, I miss Peru, and she's like, here, you can cook Peruvian food. I'm gonna be on because like he had to get the card to be able to call long distance. So like on your house phone, you know,
on your landline,
being like cooking while you're talking to your mom. And obviously you're being comforted by her and you're telling her about like how sad you are and she's comforting you, but she's also teaching you to cook. Like, that's such a lovely experience.
It is. It's so sweet. And I feel that probably, gave him a lot of comfort in that, in, you know, those early years that seemed so hard. I think in our conversation, and also it just reminded me of through the years meeting him and seeing him. And I think that what has stood out to me the most about Miguel has been his work ethic. And I truly don't know if that is something that, like, as he would credit, he learned in Japan working at factories, or if he was always this person, because it really is admirable. Like, it's not just like, I have a job to survive. Like, it was real discipline. And it seems like he still carries it to today, because he says, like, I am not going to disappoint anyone at his current job. But it really truly goes back to like disappointing, I think, himself. And he has really high standards. And I think is just like insane work ethic. Like, there was all he needed was the chance, because it was crystal clear that he was gonna go far. You know,
given the opportunity, he was gonna take it all the way. He was
gonna, and I think that those stories are nice, and I think comforting maybe for an immigrant community, for someone who's just arriving here, who's starting like he started, you know, bussing tables at this restaurant, maybe, you know, realizing that, okay, I'm not gonna go to private college that I had picked out, but I'm going to go to community college. Yeah. And there is
reality check Matt.
Reality
doing
check
his
Matt,
job.
But look at where
keep him grounded.
He landed, you know?
Yeah.
And
I think it is nice to always hear, like, it's always lovely to hear a positive story of someone that had to start from scratch, do it all himself, work hard to get to where he is. And also, like, that he was given the opportunities. Like I always find that so heartwarming when you're like, because there are opportunities in this country. There are a lot of opportunities. But the fact that someone so deserving, someone that was busting their butt, working really hard, and just needed the opportunity, like in wanting to get out of the restaurant business, finding a job, getting the job, like that was his first big break, like getting into the corporate world for the first time. Expedia, he was so loyal to them because he felt so grateful for that opportunity. And then Google comes knocking on his door. That opportunity, the fact that someone so deserving got that opportunity, because Google could knock at anyone's door they want.
For sure. And I was also left with like, at the end when he told us about all of these identities, kind of like he said, like, well, I learned this one from Peru, like about being warm with our family. And I learned work ethic from Japan. And it made me reflect a little bit on my own, because I don't think I've ever looked at that question in that way. It's funny. All of our guests always answer that question differently, but I've never really analyzed, like, what did my Peruvian culture give me? What did the American culture give me? What did I get from my time in Mexico? I don't think I framed it in this way, that like I obviously know some things about Peruvian culture, well, lots of things about Peruvian culture and like things about, but I don't think I've actually analyzed what I've taken from each of them. Like specifically, I think I can answer that pretty quickly for Peru, specifically from my American culture. Like I don't know if I were to answer today, like what exactly are the traits that I have adopted as my own? And I think that's
I have a couple. Yeah. Because so the first time I ever thought about this in that way was I was told by someone, that's your American side. Oh, then this is your Peruvian side.
Oh, yes. I've been told that. Okay. Yeah.
So someone told me that
but it
when
feels like a criticism when they're telling it to me.
To me, it wasn't a criticism, because this happened when I was right out of college, and I self-published a book of poetry, and this college professor and like a person that works in education in Peru, he did the foreword for my book. And when he did the foreword, he had to read it. And there were poems in English and poems in Spanish. And I went to his house, and after he had read it, to talk about it, and he told me what he thought of the book and what he was going to write. Like if he would write it or not, he was going to answer. And of course he said, yes, I will. And when I went to his house to see him, he's like congratulated me on the book or whatever, but he was very clear. And in the foreword, if you read the foreword of that book, he writes it. He goes like, you will find in this book, you'll find a lovely collection of poems in Spanish and English. Claudia has her English side, her English language side and her Spanish language side. And he talks about how different they are. And he analyzes how my English poems are a certain way and my Spanish poems are a completely different personality and the characteristics in each one. And when I read that, I was like, and he's a very smart and incisive man. And I was like, he just told me something about myself. Right. I should look at that deeper. Right. Because this is very, very telling. And from then I started to think about it a little more, like, what did I get from it? Is this is different.
The Peruvian stuff is pretty obvious. I guess it's just because like that just feels more like that's how I am. But I am borrowing stuff from the American part over the good chunk of the last 12 years. And I think that people have pointed out in like stuff that I've adopted being maybe more structured, having clearer boundaries. I can attribute that to getting older, to having more responsibilities. But actually, is it that, or is it my Americanness that I'm adopting? Like parts, So anyway, I think that it's.
I think only you can answer that, really.
Exactly. When he was talking about it, I was like, well, let me have a think of this. But I thought that it was a thoughtful way to answer the question.
Yeah. And I love how the conversation ended, because when we interview people, they're in all different ages and all different stages of their lives. And I love that we got to talk to Miguel in this stage of his life, where he's like, I'm no longer catching up. Yeah. Exactly. He's like, I already caught up. I already feel good. I already did it. He's going to therapy and working on work-life balance. And like, these are his challenges now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, oh, that's such a lovely place to be. Yeah. Very at ease. I already climbed the mountain and now I'm trying to enjoy the view. Like, oh, that's a great challenge to have. If that's your challenge in your life, trying to enjoy the view, trying to take it all in. That's amazing.
I know. So fun. What a good talk. It was so nice.
It was a lovely conversation. That wraps it up for us today. You can support us, of course, by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving us 5-star reviews both on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Hasta la vista, babies.
Ciao, ciao.
At Where We Land, we know that some immigrant experiences are harder than others, especially for those in the margins of our current legal system. So if you would like to help, we encourage you to support organizations that provide services for immigrants and champion their rights. You can find a list of organizations in the show notes.